Hi, welcome back to SHOT Show TV. My name is Larry Keene. I'm the Senior Vice President and General Counsel for the National Shooting Sports Foundation. And I'm joined here for this session of SHOT Show TV with my good friend Marvin Richardson, who's the Assistant Director at ATF for Enforcement Programs and Services. And we're here to talk about a new joint effort between NSSF and ATF called Operation Secure Store, which is a collaborative effort between NSSF and ATF. And Marvin, thanks for joining us. Could you explain a little bit about what Operation Secure Store is and why it's important?
Sure, Larry. Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to be here and to really talk about this. We've noticed in the past several years that there's been an uptick in the trend of FFL burglaries. And in looking at that trend, obviously we want to get to the community who's being the most affected. So we have an opportunity here now to partner with NSSF in Operation Secure Store, which is to talk about what FFLs and the FFL community can do to actually help to protect themselves from becoming a victim of one of these burglaries. And that includes many aspects from both a law enforcement perspective after the fact sometime, but from a preventative perspective before the crime occurs. And in Operation Secure Store, one of the things that we want to talk about is some of those things that you in the FFL community can do to protect yourselves, to prevent you from becoming victims of those crimes.
And what are some examples of things FFLs can do that we will be trying to communicate to them to prevent burglaries from occurring in the first place, and how they can assist law enforcement and ATF in particular when such a terrible event does occur?
So obviously one of the things that I've said in the past and asked people a lot of times is, who knows the ATF regulation that says you've got to lock your door, you've got to put your guns in a safe, there aren't those such regulations. They don't exist, and they don't need to exist because the FFL community can take steps on their own accord to try and prevent some of those things. So for example, some of those things that you talk about that are just kind of common sense. We can look at different things like barriers, right? We know that a lot of times the easier the access is to the front of the store, the better the target is for that would-be burglar. So things that can be done to harden the target from an exterior perspective. Having some kind of a surveillance system. When we talk about getting in there after the fact and trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, having those kinds of resources to refer back to identify potential suspects really do help us. Some of the things that I think that the NSSF has definitely pushed are looking at the kinds of cases, things like even putting film on glass to make it harder to break. So there are a lot of very common sense things that can be done in that approach, but the key is to take that opportunity to prevent yourself from becoming a victim. It's an investment, and we understand that, but at the same time, it's an investment in the FFL's future operation.
Right, as we have talked in the past, I mean, time is the issue, right? Time, the longer you can delay them from being able to either break in, or even if they break in, your ability to get guns from the store increases the opportunity for the police to respond in time, or they just give up and run because that clock is ticking. I think you had mentioned in one of our prior discussions that they're in and out in about 2 minutes.
That's correct.
The police can't respond that quickly. So the things you can do, and every store is different. There's no one size fits all. You could be bollards.
Correct.
Gates and bars on the windows, smash resistant glass, or putting the guns in a safe. Not everybody can do that. The smaller stores don't have the space for that, but or can afford it. But as you mentioned, the FFL's got an economic incentive not to have their inventory stolen. You can't sell what's been stolen, and even if you have insurance, your insurance rates are going to go up, and you don't know what you're going to, how much you're going to get, and you'll be out of business for a while, and it's a real headache. But I do also want to commend ATF for its effort here. I mean, as ATF has said, these FFL smash and grab burglaries are, for ATF, the equivalent of the bank robbery for the FBI.
Yes.
And I really want to commend ATF for responding to every one of these burglaries when they occur that night, right away, and working with local law enforcement and doing things like trying to capture DNA evidence or fingerprints that can be used to try to track these guns down, because when those guns hit the street, they're not going to, bad things are going to happen with them. Law enforcement's going to be confronted with stolen guns. So it's a real problem. It's an important effort by NSSF and ATF. And I think the model we built it on is the Don't Lie for the Other Guy campaign,
Yes,
a collaborative effort where industry can work with ATF to stop crimes from occurring in the first place. No one wants to sell a gun to a criminal. It's a straw purchaser, and certainly you don't want to have guns stolen from you if you can try to prevent it.
And one of the statements that we've made is, nobody's opposed to public safety. And we know that by doing these things and hardening those targets and making it more difficult for these crews to break in and to steal that inventory, the one thing we know is that inventory, once it's stolen, it's going directly into illegal commerce. Right. And it's being used most often in the communities in which they're being stolen against both our law enforcement and just the public in general. Right. And so we know that if we can respond to those things immediately, there's a greater likelihood, because ATF has a 100% commitment. We are, whether it's one gun or 100 guns that are stolen, right, we're going to commit those resources to that investigation, and we're going to see it through from soup to nuts. And that's our commitment to it, because we believe, again, that the FFL community that we serve, that we regulate, deserves that. Because at that point in time, the FFL becomes a victim. And just like any other victim of a crime, they deserve the best efforts that we can from a law enforcement perspective to solve that crime.
Well, so, FFL's dealers should be looking forward to receiving information from Operation Secure Store from both NSSF and ATF. Things like making them aware that NSSF will match rewards offered by ATF, and that's a check I don't mind writing because we got a bad guy, and trying to recover those guns, as you say, and getting them back to the owner. And things like, from the NSSF side, encouraging people and trying to get them product discounts on the smash-proof display cases and things like that. And joint seminars that we'll be doing, and we'll try to do some webinars and things like that to get the message out, to educate the retailers on those things they can do to make themselves a harder target. And we really appreciate the collaborative effort. We think it's very important. And it just shows the cooperative nature of the relationship between industry, NSSF, and ATF, and we really appreciate it, Marvin. Thank you for joining us, yep, and look forward to working together. So thanks everybody for joining us here on SHOT Show TV. I'm Larry Keane from the National Shooting Sports Foundation. I hope you have a great SHOT Show.